All right, guys, take a quick look at this disclosure. You got to read it before we get into the midday call. Hope everyone's doing well. Everyone liked this yesterday, so I figured, hey, why not do it again? So let's get right to it. Um, my name is Scott Rudler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com. About 24 hours ago, we were talking about whether or not the S&P, the SPYs, and the Qs would hold above Friday's gap. Can we digest and then continue the rally? A lot of us, take clues on action of technicals and pivots. And I know on Friday everyone's like, oh, they sold the news on the trade deal or the phase one. I'm like, okay, well, it was a 3-day move. You have a bit of a topping tail. Usually takes a day or two to work that off. And how do you know if it's going to mean we're going lower? Well, let's see how much of yet Friday's gap holds. And that was yesterday. So basically, it held in very well. And then today, lots of key stocks took off. Had a pretty extensive note this morning for those of you on Motherwell Access, like 35 different names. I posted 14 to 15 different charts, all with actionable plans. Some worked more than others. What I do is I put together like 20 ideas and then I watch very closely, but I'm prepared. So when certain ideas trigger, I can go over there. If certain trades don't trigger, I don't trade them. Or sometimes I'll try them, and then if they don't work, I just get out of them, make a small loss, and I try and stick with things that are working. So anyway, look at the chart here. This is what is this? The S&P. This was Friday's gap up. Remember, last week we talked about the wedge and how they cheated when it took out 29.29. So people were leaning bullish, including me. Apple was acting really well. We had a bunch of stocks, Go-To Nature doing better, and then you had this big gap up. So the question is, what would happen yesterday as China said, oh, we need to talk more before phase one deal? Well, that's what happened. Not a big deal. You didn't even have to be. I wasn't in a lot of stocks overnight. I had options. I started buying pre-market when I saw China come back and say, hey, we did agree to a deal, etc. I saw J.P. Morgan's numbers. I saw it above what I talk about, 118, the first level, then 120.40, and then I started buying some things that I wanted to be back involved in. And then you had a lot of time during the day. I even bought Roku pre-market back again, where the VTF saw at 122. But I only have those kind of things to do or conviction because I'm prepared, because I'm up since 4:45, because I have a go-to list of 30 names that I know like the back of my hand, levels. I can see how they're trading. I know what news means what, and that gives me the confidence to act fast. So if you go here, we took out 29.72, which was the doji high. So you had a little bit of a doji right in the mix or right above a gap. So that was important. Took that out and held it. Now what did we do? We took out 29.93 and we're a little bit above that. So what do we have here? 3008, 3022. We're on the right side of this descending channel here, and things are healthier than not. Okay, during this decline, things weren't that healthy. Finally, a red dog reversal. I remember that 28.74, quick up move. Red dog reversal the other way, and then really in here, I still don't think I was in many positions. Then on this day, it kind of changed. Now here we are 4 days later in a new active sequence that will measure and probably ride as long as these stocks continue to do what they're doing across different sectors. Hopefully back to the highs, and then who knows, maybe through it. If you look here, take a little bit more of a bigger look. We haven't done anything. And what this is the summer, okay, and we're just heading back up here, and we're back above the moving averages. What I always preach: above the 8 and 21 day and the 50-day, you try and be long, not short. Okay, here we were below for quite some time until that fake out move to the top, and then from here we were below, and now all of a sudden we're on the right side in a new active sequence, so a new trade composure. You have to measure the trade composure. So anyway, that's that. Yesterday the Qs didn't even really trade into their gap. Remember that? Look at the Qs. So the Qs didn't trade into the gap and then took out yesterday's high, which again is a healthy thing if you're an active trader for momentum. And that's after holding the gap. It had every reason to fill some of it yesterday. Couldn't even do it. So if it couldn't do it, you can't get too bearish. And then it already took out Friday's high. So we'll see, does this continue to work back towards the highs and give us clues that other sectors could do the same? We'll go step by step, but ultimately, nice action there, right? You got to take a closer look so you could see it. I'm going to teach you a few things too. Here we just about took back a lot of the moving averages. So if you were short, maybe you kind of switched gears there. If you were looking to be long on this day, Apple's acting well, Microsoft was still acting well, Coop was still acting well. You had certain stocks that were acting well while others started to get a little bit better, Google. And now anyway, here's where we are. So what do you know? Okay, you know where we are now. We'll see, do we hold Friday's high into the rest of the day to keep some of this momentum, or does it come back below and get a little choppier? That could happen too. And then here's the bigger resistance area. So when tech is leading the way, it's good, or it's better. IWM playing a little bit of catch up. IWMs matter when obviously they're a headwind, and right now they're not a headwind. And in my note today, I said as long as it holds 148, it's not a headwind. And now we'll see, does it take back the 200-day? And if it starts to come back into this upper end of this big channel, that would help the broader indices. But overall, this held again. Big channel here. So will it work its way to the upper end of the channel? Perhaps. So just don't fight it. Some guys I remember fighting this entire move, because before it told you can, before it hit some topping tails into resistance. But anyway, this is not a leading sector, but it's also not a headwind for now. Okay, this morning, Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman all came out. So JP Morgan, best in breed, talked about 117.99. It got above that, and now look at it, above 120.40. So now JP Morgan is above a 2-year chart. So don't be just fighting it because you're like, banks don't really break out. Everyone says banks are horrible. Well, you know what? JP Morgan, big base over the last 2 years, held higher here and took out 118, and now it took out 120.40. So now if I was in it, which I'm not in it, I would see if it holds this 120.40. And at this point, it's a little extended, but much healthier than not. Citigroup actually took out this little spot. This had decent earnings. It actually went from red to green. I drew this yesterday. So this is actually acting okay. And then you have Goldman Sachs I missed. Goldman Sachs hasn't been Goldman Sachs in a while. But what did it do? I drew this line this morning. Remember this? I said, can it fill the gap and then come back up? Well, now it filled the gap, came back up, and now all of a sudden they're going to forget about these numbers and they're going to look to the future. So this, too, might not be a headwind. It could have been if it was opened down 3 and closed down 7, but it opened down 3 or 4, went down 6, and now it's coming right back into here. So, a little sideways action, and this also all of a sudden is not a headwind. So I'm just trying to show you things on why, not to be just all in short. There are the perma bears out there. There are people who all they want to do is talk how the world's going to end and how Trump's going to get impeached and how China deal's not going to happen. And okay, all those things might happen, but not now while the market's back above the 8 and 21-day moving average. So anyway, in my go-to section, I have about 25 names that I posted some charts. We'll see, how they looked now. Apple's a little wishy-washy. What's it called? It's, at this point, Apple made a new high and pulled in yesterday as it was extended from the 228, 229 buyer. It's still best in breed in many, holding versus 232. So again, it's actually better, in my humble opinion, that it's not breaking out because it was so extended. So now let it give us another, just another setup. Okay, hopefully it holds this 234. Okay, and if not, then we'll see what happens here. I actually got out of my Apple when it went red today. I've been in it since this little doji here, added to it there, trimmed some. Yesterday I tweeted that I was in the lightest amount of Apple I've had in a while, and now the problem is with being cute. Like, yeah, I'll be happy if all of a sudden I don't lose a little bit of money and then I sold it well, but then if all of a sudden it goes and I don't get back in it, then that's a problem. But at this point, we watch it close enough. So for me, who's active in front of my screen most of the time, and if I see different types of divergences or signals, I can get back in it. For you, if you're you've revisited your screen twice or 3 times a day to watch my morning call, my recap, my midday video, then I would just sit tight and just give it to 232. We'll see. Maybe we could buy it back there, maybe not. This is this is your next support underneath. What's this? 234.67. We've been talking about how Google is best in breed and something to turn to. Well, Google, this was what the note this morning. Google looks decent but lacks power. Some are buying long versus 1211, which was this area, which was yesterday, and some looking for momentum if it can clear 1226 to 1228. Well, it cleared that and hit a high of 1238. So that's another $10 if you buy strength, which is not the easiest thing to do. Or you're in from, they're going to reclaim this 1213 and held the moving averages, and that would be even better, obviously. And now the next big level here will be, 1248. Could be today, could be this week, could be after Netflix. Netflix is tomorrow. But overall, This to me is one of the better names. When we've been saying that, but it's lacked power. Now some power is starting to come back a bit. So I would try and stay with that. Facebook, last week we listed it also when it started perking up. When did it start perking up? When it cleared this 181.18. Okay, then yesterday I'm like, perhaps buy adverse 182 into some weakness based on this Senator Warren, Zuckerberg, etc., etc. But so anyway, that was a decent buy in the hole, and then today took out 186.49. So Facebook played a little catch up with the Zuck and battled Warren. It cleared 181 and hit high 186. Now see if dips are buyable versus 182. And that was yesterday, and here's some power today. Now you could come across here. This really doesn't matter anymore. But now we have this new resistance area, right? What is this? This is 193. I would think it's going to need some time now to get through here. I wouldn't think it'd get through there today, so we'll see. As far as if you were long from clearing 181, or you added when it held 182, or you added when it took this out inside range, then I would be lighter so you could sit if it happens to go sideways before maybe getting above there. Amazon, it's been a pain. Yesterday, I bought calls just to have something because it perked up a little bit. And then today, pre-market, when I saw the Goldman note, I was like, you know what, I'm like, let me just try it a little bit more. So I was buying 1741s and 1744s, sold a little bit above 1750. I haven't looked at it in 7 minutes. Let's see if it's still holding up. It's still lethargic. It's still not the Amazon of old, but I'm trying to stick with it a little bit. All right, this actually, it's hanging around better. Where is it now? It is 1753-ish. Okay. That's better. What did we buy? I think I bought the 1800s for $16, $17 yesterday because of this, and now it's perking up a little bit. Maybe it could work its way back towards 1790, and then we'll see where we are come earnings, and then maybe I'll turn it into a call spread. So if I could buy it well, and then it runs 40, 50 points, and I'm in the stock, and then prior to earnings, then you could sell a higher strike, and then it almost finances the entire play. If it goes more, you make money. If it doesn't, it's much cheaper. So anyway, hopefully this is the start, and I want to sit in this thing, and it'd be nice to see another 25 points before it meets bigger resistance there. See, Amazon seems like it's trying to put a small rounding bottom. This is all stuff that I put in. Sometimes I put on the public Twitter, but I put like 15 to 20 of these things Monday through Thursday on RAA every single day. If you're having a hard time finding actionable plays, well, you should be here. Anyway, this is that for now. I had NVIDIA this morning. What a nice play. Broke above this 189.40. Posted this chart. I didn't post it to the public Twitter feed, but this was to private. NVIDIA is starting to get better and better. Some are long versus 183, meaning versus the moving averages. That's buy a dip. Others want a high volume move above 189.50, and that's what happened. And now it has a lot of room. Some of these also look like it's about to go, like this CLAC. It hasn't gone yet, so if it starts going, this is a trade that's still there. CLAC looks decent and needs to hold 158, which it did, and clear 162.70 to get momentum. Again, momentum's hard to find, so sometimes you want to buy Versa level, so when you just buy for momentum, it's not your initial trade. But anyway, this is looking pretty good. If it gets above and stays above this, that would be healthy. So maybe buy number one is Versa 158, buy number two is if it gets above and stays above. Let's see, what's LRCX doing? Looks pretty good too. Wow, look at that. I drew that this morning. Buy versus support, and now it's starting to take out resistance. So that's healthier action. A few days ago, last week, we talked about the rounding bottoms and the lower consolidations in TTD, Twilio, some of those, cloud software names. I sold my Twilio yesterday, but, nice 2-day play. Oh, look at that. I didn't even really miss much today. But, it cleared here. So granted, so if you didn't get caught on this trade down and you didn't hold through this mess, this lower consolidation, you had a nice little tradable move. And now it's kind of reversing it to 200 days. So that would, to me, if I was still in it, which I wasn't, I sold yesterday, I would get out. What's TTD do? That actually went through with power. This was the one pivot we had from last week, and then it got through this, which I was in my note today, and now boom, 214 into some resistance. So I would not be buying it here. I'd be trimming into this spot. Roku, we had a great trade over Yom Kippur. I know I wasn't supposed to be trading over Yom Kippur, but I also wasn't supposed to marry an Italian wife, but I love her. Her name's Selena. Anyway, I didn't trade. I just held. So because the day before it was at that, remember 108, it was very strong. So this was Roku. On this day was the day that I tweeted it out and it was long, and then it cleared. And this day I did trim it, traded a little bit in here, and then this morning I'm like 124 is a big level. That's big news with Apple. Although I would have loved to buy it into a red dog reversal, instead I was sitting there at my desk. I'm like, what happened with Roku? Fluttering, and then I'm like, oh, they're like Apple TV, Roku, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay. Started buying 122.50s. It hovered there pre-market, and then once it took 124, I'm like, you know what? It's on, baby. Momentum. This thing loves momentum. Until here, that was your sell signal. So again, different sequences. Nice sequence above the 821 day. Here was different. Outside day, get out of Dodge, break the 821 day. Now you're tactical, bear flag down, and then all of a sudden, nice lower consolidation. And now look at it, right back into here. So I am not in this now. I sold it somewhere around 127.5, but nice trades. Things to do. Tactics. It's not easy. Somebody tweets me, oh, it's not easy. I made a fortune today. I'm like, well, it's not really that easy. Some days are easier than others, but it can happen. That's why I try and preach that you can be a good trader if you're planned and you have a process and you have your go-to list and you have your routine and you have all these things together and then you're thinking clearly enough to execute on it. You could have a plan, but all of a sudden it's too much for you and you're trading too much size and you have too many things going on at home, and then all of a sudden you're not executing on your plan. You get even more upset. So then the next day you come in and you're spinning yourself around. So that's not good. You need to be even keel. You need to have your balance. You need to know what you're looking at, why you're looking at it, so then you have the confidence to execute when the market confirms an opinion that turns into a thesis that you can use a tactic that could generate your cash flow. So right now it is 11:46. Hopefully you enjoyed my midday video. I didn't go over everything because it's time for me to head to the gym with some of my positions that I'll put stops in. I hope you had a good morning. Hopefully I had a great few weeks. It's been very tradable. And if you're having problems and you're not having a good time with your ideas, or you need a community, well, you should look into Red All Access or maybe even our virtual trading floor, because we have lots of great human capital trading the markets every day, helping each other, adding value, posting news, posting levels, and trying to just make sure that everyone is not being stubborn and trying to be on the right page, or at least in a position to be involved if the market warrants it. So with that said, I might see you tomorrow. I will see Red All Access at the recap, and I might see you in the Twitter sphere when I'm on the stair machine burning off the morning, since I've been up since 4:45 and it's been super active. Have a good one.